I looked up the word architrave, actually, because I wanted to know what it was. I'd forgotten. So where you have two pillars, often there is a beam going across the two pillars. I suppose it could be made of wood or stone, and that's called the architrave. So the cameras are hidden underneath the architrave. Okay. In seconds, the safe lay open before him. "Oh," he said, disappointed. "What is it?" "Nothing. It's just human currency. Currency meaning human money. Nothing of value." "Leave it," ordered Root. "Try another room. Get going." Mulch nodded. Another room, before his time ran out. But something was niggling him. If this guy was so clever, why did he put the safe behind a painting? Such a cliche, totally against form. No, something wasn't right here. They were being duped, somehow. Mulch closed the safe, swinging the portrait back into position. It swung smoothly, weightless on the hinges. Weightless. He swung the picture back out again, and back in. "Convict, what are you doing?" "Shut up, Julius. I mean, quiet. A moment, Commander." Mulch squinted at the frame's profile. It was a bit thicker than normal. Quite a bit thicker. Even taking the box frame into account, it was 5 centimeters. He ran a nail down the heavy cartridge backing and stripped it away to reveal another safe. A smaller one. Custom made, obviously. "Foley, I can't see through this." "It's lead-lined. You're on your own, burglar boy. Do what you do best." "Oh, typical," muttered Mulch, flattening his ear to the cold steel. He twirled the dial experimentally. It had a really nice action. The clicks were muted by the lead. He would have to concentrate. The upside was that something this thin could have only 3 tumblers at the most. Mulch held his breath and twisted the dial, 1 cog at a time. To the normal ear, even with amplification, the clicks would have seemed uniform, but to Mulch, each cog had a distinctive signature, and when a ratchet caught, it was so loud as to be deafening. 1, he breathed. "Hurry up, convict, your time is running out." "You interrupted me to tell me that. I can see now how you made Commander Julius." "Convict, I'm going to..." But it was no use. Mulch had removed his earpiece, slipping it into his pocket. Now he could devote his full attention to the task at hand. 2. There was noise outside, in the hall. Someone was coming, about the size of an elephant by the sound of it. No doubt this was the man-mountain that had made mincemeat of the retrieval squad. Mulch blinked a bead of sweat from his eye. Concentrate. The cogs clicked by millimetre. Nothing was catching. The floor seemed to be hopping gently, though he could be imagining it. Click. Click. Come on. His fingers were slick with perspiration, the dial slipping between them. Mulch wiped them on his jerkin. "Now, baby, come on, talk to me." Click. Thunk. Yes! Mulch twisted the handle. Nothing. Still an obstruction. He ran a fingertip over the metal face. There, a small irregularity, a micro keyhole. Too small for your average lockpick. Time for a little trick he'd learned in prison. Quickly, though, his stomach was bubbling like stew in the oven and the footsteps were getting closer. Selecting a sturdy chin hair, Mulch fed it gently into the tiny hole. When the tip reappeared, he pulled the root from his chin. The hair immediately stiffened, retaining the shape of the lock's interior. Mulch held his breath and twisted. Smooth as a goblin's lie, the lock opened. Beautiful. At moments like these, it was almost worth all the jail time. The kleptomaniac dwarf swung back the little door. Beautiful work. Almost worthy of a fairy forge. Light as a wafer. Inside was a small chamber, and in the chamber was... "Oh, gods above," breathed Mulch. Then things came to a head rather rapidly. The shock that Mulch had experienced communicated itself to his bowels, and they decided the excess air had got to go. Mulch knew the symptoms: jelly legs, bubbling cramps, wobbly behind. In the seconds remaining to him, he snatched the object from the safe and, leaning over, He clasped his knees for support. The constrained wind had built itself up to mini-cyclone intensity and could not be constrained. And so it exited, rather abrasively, blowing open Mulch's bum flap and slamming into the rather large gentleman who had been sneaking up behind him. Artemis was glued to the monitors. This was the time when things traditionally went wrong for kidnappers, the third quarter of operations. Having been successful thus far, the abductors tended to relax, light up a few cigarettes, get chatty with their hostages. Next thing they knew, they were flat on their faces with a dozen guns pointed at the backs of their heads. Not Artemis Fowl. He didn't make mistakes. No doubt the fairies were reviewing the tapes of their first negotiating session, searching for anything that would give them a way in. Well, it was there all right. All they had to do was look, buried just deep enough to make it look accidental. It was possible that Commander Root would try another ruse. He was a wily one, no doubt about it. One who would not take kindly to being bested by a child. He would bear watching. The mere thought of Root gave Artemis the shivers. He decided to check in again. He inspected the monitors. Juliet was still in the kitchen, scrubbing at the sink, washing the vegetables. Captain Short was on her bunk, quiet as the grave, no more bed banging. Perhaps he'd been wrong about her. Perhaps there was no plan. Butler stood at his post outside Holly's cell. Odd. He should have been on his rounds by now. Artemis grabbed a walkie-talkie. Butler? Roger, base, receiving. Shouldn't you be on your rounds? There was a pause. I am, Artemis. I'm patrolling the main landing, coming up on the safe room. I'm waving at you right now. Artemis glanced at the landing camera. Deserted. From every angle. Definitely no waving manservant. He studied the monitors, counting under his breath. There. Every 10 seconds, a slight jump on every screen. A loop, he cried, jumping from his chair. They're feeding us a loop. Over the speaker, he could hear Butler's pace quickening to a run. The safe room! Artemis's stomach dropped into queasy hell. Duped! He, Artemis Fowl, had been duped, even though he'd known it was coming. Inconceivable. Oh, it was arrogance that had done it. His own blinding arrogance, and now the entire plan could collapse around his ears. He switched the walkie-talkie to Juliet's band. It was a pity now that he had taken the house's intercom offline, but it didn't operate on a secure frequency, meaning the fairies could listen in. Juliet? Receiving. Where are you right now? In the kitchen. Wrecking my nails on this grater. Leave it, Juliet. Check on the prisoner. But Artemis, the carrot sticks will dry out. Leave it, Juliet, shouted Artemis. Drop everything and check on the prisoner. Juliet obediently dropped everything, including the walkie-talkie. She'd sulk for days now. Never mind. There was no time to worry about a teenage girl's bruised ego. He had more important matters to attend to. Artemis depressed the master switch on the computerized surveillance system. His only chance of purging the loop was a complete reboot. After several agonizing moments of screen snow, the monitors jumped and settled. Things were not as they had seemed only seconds before. There was a grotesque thing in the safe room. It had apparently discovered the secret compartment. Not only that, but it had managed to open the whisper lock. Amazing. Butler had it covered, though. He was sneaking up behind the creature, and any moment now the intruder would find itself nose down in the carpet. Artemis switched his attention to Holly. The elf was back to bed banging, slamming the frame down over and over again, as though she could. It hit Artemis then, like a blast from a water cannon. If Holly had somehow smuggled an acorn in here, then 1 square centimetre of ground would be enough. If Juliet left that door open, Juliet, he shouted into the walkie-talkie. Juliet, don't go in there. It was useless. The girl's walkie-talkie lay buzzing on the kitchen floor, and Artemis could only watch helplessly as Butler's sister strode towards the cell door, muttering about carrots. That's a cliffhanger today. All right. Find out tomorrow what happens next. Bye-bye.